Hello, my name is Patrick May. I'm the president of the Vancouver Chopin Society. This Summer Chopin Academy, this is the first time we're doing it, is something we've been thinking about for a long time, and this is an opportunity for young pianists from really all over Canada, and we have a few from the United States, to gather over a period of 4 days and study with two of today's most outstanding pianists and pedagogues, Kevin Kenner and Krzysztof Jablonski.
Now you started helping yourself with legato. First of all, thank you for having me here. It was kind of an emergency situation, but I'm happy to be here and happy to share all those years of work and knowledge and experience I have behind me. It's always the same story. We are building experience, we are building knowledge, but young people kind of always go through the same mistakes, same problems, same imperfections. So that's probably most important purpose of having master classes, seeing someone who is much older, seeing someone who has more experience, more knowledge in this field. And I must say that there was no exception. All of the young pianists I met this time, they worked excellently. They were attentive, they were focused, they were hardworking. And it's not even important how much we did. Sometimes it's about fixing one detail, several details, 1 page, 2 pages of the piece, but it brings good results everywhere else. So I'm really happy. It's not always like this. So I consider this addition of these master classes a big success for the Chopin Society in Vancouver. Yes, of course, I wish I will see at least some of them on stages of big concert halls later. It's a long journey. But I always remember whom I work with, and it's great to see results and great to see them being successful.
It's a combination of accelerando and crescendo, maybe. I like the idea very much of having an academy which focuses on just one composer. That everybody's playing the music of that one composer. Chopin's a very good one because he was a very complex composer. But it allows students to listen to that music, to the performances of the people in their little groups and things, that they're getting more, they're getting deeper and deeper into that sound, into that world, into the aesthetic of Chopin. And the deeper you go into one composer, I think it starts to unlock doors to every composer. You know, you take it as a case study, and rather than just playing a little bit of Beethoven, a little bit of Ravel, a little bit of Chopin, and then you sort of just gloss the surface in one lesson. This one, they're hearing it every day, and they start thinking about it. They start to absorb it. That, I think, is the reason why a Chopin Academy is such a great idea.
Yesterday I had the very great opportunity to learn with Professor Kevin Kenner, and it was just such an amazing experience. He totally changed my perception and my point of view of my entire barcarolle, and it was just so different, and he just knew exactly what my problems were, and he gave me a whole different understanding of the piece, which was just incredible. And then this morning we had the privilege of learning with Professor John Rake from Cambridge, I believe, about the music of Chopin and how his work relates to our playing. And it was also just so interesting. There were a lot of different perspectives talked about, a lot of different sources, and it was just amazing, and I learned so much, and my brain is kind of on right now.
The teachers are very nice, they're very active, and they're very caring towards the students. They give you a lot of suggestions, and they relish your time very well. And they are really supportive every way. If you have any struggles, they will always try to help you the best of their possibilities. And the events that has been held after class are very fun. You get to cooperate with different students, and it's always very fun to interact with other people that you don't know. You can learn about their backgrounds and their talents as well.
Chopin, I think, is so important because it's one of the composers who make us work equally hard on the three aspects of piano playing, which are the brain, the physical element, the body, and the heart, the emotions. Because to play Chopin, you really need to be a great pianist, and you also need to feel all those, this rainbow of human emotions that he himself went through. But that's not enough, because if those emotions are not backed up by structural and theoretical understandings, then it doesn't work. It's all just sugar. And Kevin Kenner and Krzysztof Jablonski, they really touched on all these three aspects.
And now you can stretch it and back to tempo, kind of sustained but still maintaining motion.
Dancing, we're gonna dance in Polonaise.
The story with Chopin's music for me started when I was 10 years old. So at this moment, I must say I was living with Chopin's music more than half the century. When Christian Zimmermann was winning Chopin competition in Warsaw in 1985, I got bugged, I got seeded. I started dreaming about being on that stage someday, and it was such a strong dream that, being not equipped yet, having no skills needed for all those pieces, I started learning those pieces. My teacher was really lamenting sometimes, because it is not the greatest idea to jump on those difficult pieces of repertoire when we are too little, too weak. My fingers were always very weak when I was young. But the dream was the driving force behind all the actions over the next 10 years. I've learned all the pieces needed for the competition during those 10 years. I had a chance to play that repertoire many times on stage before I actually played in Warsaw. So that music remains very close to my heart and became probably the most confident territory where I can speak straight from my heart and I am not afraid that I am doing something improper.
The first note, F, I noticed you fingered that with finger 5, and I want you to think that the finger that you use will affect the kind of sound that comes out of the piano. What you didn't know, probably, because it's not in the Paderewski edition, but it's in the Ekier edition, is that Chopin actually wrote in some fingerings in the copies of the scores of his students. And he put finger 4 on that, because finger 4 is not a powerful finger. But unlike 5, which is sort of at the very end and sort of pokes because it is small, we tend to sort of just straighten it and it makes this sort of focus sound. 4 is something that you can play more like this and get a more sweet kind of tone from the instrument, and I recommend that. You can always change to 5 once you've played it, but the fact that he wrote 4, I think is important. This is obviously a Chopin Academy, so there are certain things that are more specific to Chopin's aesthetic that I think are important to emphasize. So that's why I think the quality of the tone is so important, because he heard music so vocally and was attracted to that operatic movement of the bel canto. So finding a way to create the right kind of tone, to articulate, to use the fingers and hands in ways that will make the piano sound more like a voice, that's one of the really important goals in playing Chopin's music. But then there are more general things as well that I find a lot of, especially a lot of younger students of Chopin, tend to ignore a lot of the information that's in the score. And so as a teacher, I always try to not just share an opinion, my opinion about how to play something, but rather to point to the score so that they become more aware of what is there, the facts of the score, and that their conception is built from those facts into something that perhaps more closely resembles what Chopin intended. Because especially with Chopin, where we have lots of traditions that have been going on for years and years, some of which have very little value, I just think it's one of the most important things a teacher can do. Because once a student is more aware of what is there, and they learn the technique of putting facts together in a way that makes sense into an interpretation that really helps to tell the story of the piece, that helps them to become independent artists and not just sort of dependent on the opinion of a teacher.
A lot regarding how to analyze Chopin's works, because before I thought it was really simple, but in fact it's not that simple. There's a lot of small details that you have to really pay attention to in order to play Chopin successfully, even though Chopin's work might be simple when you hear people play, but it's actually not, especially when you dive deeper into it.
It's a fast melody which needs control, yes? So your mind should control your fingers. That's better, yes? And not too fast. Try to not to stop the trill. Try to play amount of notes which will give you the exit from the trill straight to 16th notes. Yes. So the trill should not choke. Yes?
My name is Larry Hsu, and I am here for the Chopin Academy workshop. I am actually the only older adult student, and I would have to say that I didn't know what to expect. Actually, I didn't know what to expect, especially since most of the other people are younger students. But I would say I'm very pleased at what I've experienced so far. The instruction is wonderful. And the students here, from what I can tell, are a very high level. Of course, I'm not professional, I don't have a music degree, but I have learned a lot in the time that I have been here. So for that, I'm very thankful.